This is the part of the story that I think everyone usually waits for. This is the part of the story that most people colloquially think of as the Odyssey.
Yeah, and I actually want to talk as we get going about why you think that is, because it's good, but I don't know if it's like that good.
Well, I don't think it. Everyone else thinks it.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm trying to figure out why is this the thing that people think about when they think about the Odyssey.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Because the Cyclops. Mike Wazowski. Well, hello, and welcome to Winnow, a couple's close reading of the Iliad and the Odyssey. I'm Owen Gemmer.
I'm Isabella Gemmer. We are married, and we love to talk about books together.
In this podcast, we are working our way book by book through the entirety of Homer's Iliad and Odyssey. This particular episode will cover the Odyssey, Book 9.
Indeed. As we have already said, the Mike Wazowski Cyclops part of the story.
Yes. Which is also, I think, important to frame as the beginning of the backstory, essentially, where we've gotten sort of the in media res technical term of like beginning in the middle of things, and now we're getting the flashback to here's how I got here.
This is a story all about how.
Okay.
Okay.
So Bella is going to do a 1-minute summary. It is her turn for that, and then I will ask the opening question.
Okay.
Begin.
All right. Odysseus tells the Phaeacians, "You have asked me for my name. I will tell it to you. My name is Odysseus, and here is my name and address." And he says, I'll tell you my story now. And so he tells them first that he went after Troy. He went to a place, he and his men, they sacked that place. They overstayed their welcome. They got driven off. Then they found the lotus eaters on a different island. And some of his men ate the lotus. That didn't work out too good for them. And then they got to this Cyclops island. Odysseus was like, I've heard the Cyclops lives here. Let's go check it out. So they go check it out. And they go into the Cyclops' cave, uninvited. Odysseus goes, "Hey, I thought I was going to get some gifts." And the Cyclops says no. And he closes the boulder. He kills a bunch of his men. And then they hatch a plan. They put the spike in the Cyclops' eye, and they ride out on the bellies of the sheeps. And some men die, but they're kind of okay.
All right.
So
we skip some stuff.
We'll
fill in the details.
We'll fill it in. I think that was pretty good.
Yeah. Well, I think my question will lend itself to going over more details.
Yeah.
Because as I was reading this, I was really struck by how many parallels, both positively and sort of contradictorily, there were to Odysseus arriving on the island of the Phaeacians.
Yes.
And so my question for you is both, what are these parallels and similarities and differences, and why? Like, what is Homer trying to do by making these stories of Odysseus washing up on the Phaeacian islands in the last couple of books, and now the story of the Cyclops, making them so similar in different ways?
Yeah. Well, it's that double-edged question that we always come back to, which is, why is Homer having Odysseus tell this story within the story? But also, why is Odysseus himself, as a character in the story, choosing to say these things to the Phaeacians?
Yes.
Right? So just keeping that in mind. But yes, so the one of the main parallels, I think, that comes up is how Odysseus describes the Cyclopses and their island.
Yes. Odysseus as the sort of like after the fact narrator of the story.
Yes.
Not like in the moment when he gets there. Because in the moment when he gets there, he doesn't exactly know what's going on.
Yeah. Well, he's narrating the story. So he opens by telling the people what kind of people the Cyclopses are. Should I read?
Sure.
The country of high-minded Cyclopes. I don't know what the plural is. It's not Cyclopses.
Right. So it's not spelled that way.
Maybe it's Cyclopes. Yeah.
Or just Cyclops. Cyclops.
Cyclops. The Mavericks. They put their trust in gods and do not plant their food from seed nor plow, and yet the barley grain and clustering wine grapes all flourish there. Increased by rain from Zeus, they hold no councils, have no common laws, but live in caves on lofty mountaintops, and each makes laws for his own wife and children without concern for what the others think. Countless goats live there, but people never visit it. No hunters labor through its woods to scale its hilly peaks. There are no flocks of sheep, no fields of plowland. It is all untilled, unsown, and uninhabited by humans. He even goes on to say that they don't even have boats so that men so that they can go visit other peoples and other peoples can visit them. So what stands out to me in this description of the Cyclops' island?
Yeah, I think there's both similarities and differences here.
There's similarities and differences, yeah.
Yeah.
So a similarity is between the Cyclopses and the Phaeacians is that both of their islands seem to be these like bountiful places where that difference, the Phaeacians have to work a little bit for it. But if you both seem to be sort of blessed by Zeus with this bounty, the way that
very fertile and
the way that the land seems to just effortlessly give them all the food that they could need. And then similarly, like they don't get a lot of visitors. Like the Cyclopses don't get any visitors. The Phaeacians, they seem to also never get visitors.
And I think it's also important that both groups seem to prefer it that way. Like they are intentionally isolationist. It's very clear in the description that Cyclops is here that they like to just keep to themselves. They don't really even interact with their neighbors or have, general councils or laws or customs or things like that. While the Phaeacians have like a government, their community is very also isolationist in terms of it not interacting that much with other communities. And so that was actually the thing that when I was reading it jumped out. I was like, whoa, this is weird how like specific it is about their isolationism, because we also got that with the Phaeacians. Yeah.
It's like if you're in the audience, it's like that meme from Euphoria where they're like, is this play about us? Like it's that.
Yeah.
If you're one of the Phaeacians out there, because so and then one of the differences, right, in this description is that the Cyclopses have no boats. They don't do sea travel.
Or agriculture, I think, right? Like they are both fertile places, the land of the Cyclopses and Phaeacia, but the Phaeacians actually like tend to it. They are farmers and they do agriculture, whereas the Cyclopses don't. Yeah. So they make different use of the fertility of the land and then also the boats.
Yeah. Which this is not super relevant to the topic of conversation, but Odysseus does mention when he tells them he's from Ithaca, he specifically says he's from the part of Ithaca that is really rough and rugged.
Yeah, where he's like, we have a very rocky beach.
Yeah. Things are really rocky, which would imply that it is hard to do their own agriculture on their island.
Oh, I took it also as like it's hard to visit us on boats because there's like not really great places to sail up and just like, park your boat for a bit.
Yeah, but I do find that interesting where he's like, I don't picture Ithaca like I picture Phaeacia and where the Cyclopses are as this bountiful place. Ithaca feels to me more like a place that makes one a pirate, that makes Odysseus what he is, someone who has to go out and get what he wants and take it back home. That's just a side note there. But to come back to the topic of discussion, it seems like the Cyclopses are described as like the most intense version of the Phaeacians. Yeah. If the Phaeacians were to completely cut off themselves from all of society, from the possibility of ever visiting, or if they stopped visiting other lands by ship, this is who they would be. Yeah,
it is sort of like the excess, the sort of, the furthest extreme of the trend that the Phaeacians are sort of already on.
Yeah, which maybe it's a little too soon to jump. You want to keep talking about maybe some similarities first?
Yeah.
Okay, before we start extrapolating?
Because the other one that I noticed, right? So we skipped over in the summary, and I don't think it's, maybe it's important. So Odysseus and his crew first land on an island that is not inhabited by any Cyclopses, but there's a ton of goats. And so they like pull up on the beach and they're like, whoa, there's all these goats. Let's have like an archery contest essentially. And they just go and they just kill a ton of goats and they like have a big feast and it's like, great. And then Odysseus like decides they want to go explore more. And he's like, you guys wait here in this little harbor. We'll take one boat and we'll sort of go over that way.
Yeah. Shall I read to you what he says?
Sure.
My loyal friends, stay here, the rest of you, while with my boat and crew, I go to check who those men are, the Cyclopses. Find out if they are wild, lawless aggressors or the type to welcome strangers and fear the gods.
So, if you've been paying attention, you might remember this is very similar language to what Odysseus used in Book 5 when he washed up on Phaeacia and was listening to the girls playing ball and by the river. And he's like, who are these people? What's going on here? Are they savage or are they going to give me gifts?
Yeah.
It's the kind of the exact same question that he asks.
Yeah, it is the exact same question.
And obviously, again, we know that though it is the same question, it is very different answers because when he approaches Nausicaa and ultimately the Phaeacians, they are incredibly civilized. They are very kind. They give him gifts and they treat him very well. Whereas, on the contrary, when he approaches the Cyclops, he is not treated well. And the Cyclops is savage and all these things.
Yeah.
So he asks the same question in both places, but gets very different answers.
Yes. Yeah, it's also interesting to maybe compare and contrast the way that he enters into these places because he does. So when he enters he and his men enter the Cyclops' cave, the Cyclops isn't there. They just go into the cave and they kind of sit around. And when the Cyclops does return, the Cyclops doesn't notice them at first. The Cyclops goes about he's so big and tall. He goes about his business. He does his nightly chores and he takes care of the sheep. He milks them, And then he spots them after that fact. I kind of am like, yeah, it would be shocking. You're in your house, and then all of a sudden, you think you've been alone for the last hour. You turn around, and there's people in your house, and the Cyclops is shocked. And then compare and contrast that to how he entered the Phaeacians' palace. Kind of similar, where he was shrouded in that mist Athena put around him, and nobody noticed him until he was at Arate's knees, right? Like, I'm trying to figure out if he is doing the same thing, hoping for a different outcome.
Well, but I think there's an interesting also difference when you were saying the way he approached. I thought you were going to go in the opposite direction because when he first approaches Nausicaa, we talked about how suppliant he is. He is incredibly polite. He's like, I'm going to stay at a distance. I don't want to be offensive. I'm going to praise her. I'm going to sort of be really respectful. And again, I think we rightly were very praiseworthy of how Odysseus handled that interaction in terms of his politicking and his politeness. Whereas with the Cyclops, the kind of first thing he says, he just kind of starts demanding gifts right away. Like he's not super political or kind or generous. He's just like, we're here, give us some gifts.
Yeah. He's like, I'm a guest. And you know what happens when you have a guest. You give him a gift.
Right.
He even, before the Cyclops shows up, his men, he says, my crew begged, let us grab some cheese and quickly drive the kids and lambs out of their pens, stand down to our swift ships, and sail away across the salty water. That would have been a better choice. That's what Odysseus admits. But I refused. I hoped to see him and find out if he would give us gifts. In fact, he brought no joy to my companions.
Yeah.
That's the understatement of the year. He is very intentional about wanting these gifts that, by the laws of Zeus, are his, kind of.
Yeah. He seems very entitled because I think it's also really important to remember, and that's why I included this detail earlier, they literally just had a huge hunting party and killed a ton of goats. They're good. They had previously sacked the city of the Caicons. They had stolen a bunch of wine and stuff. Now they've got as many goats as they want, easy picking. They don't need more gifts at this point. It's not like they're desperate and starving and we need somebody to help us. He is going out of his way in a way that I see, and I think many people read as incredibly greedy.
Yeah, it's really weird to pay attention to so there are times when Odysseus's men want more, when they sack the city, his men are like, no, we should stick around. And he was the one who was trying to urge them to get out of there.
Right.
They wanted to stick around. Now on the Cyclops' island, he wants to stick around. His men want to get out of there.
Right. And then this is in contrast. In the middle, we have the Lotus Eaters, where some of his men wanted to stick around, but that was because they were sort of under the spell of the Lotus.
Yeah. They had
And it's sort of the gods doing.
home.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so I do find this, like if we're keeping score, and I actually have in my margin started keeping score because I'll be curious to see basically every time something goes wrong or one of these adventures, whose fault is it? Is it Odysseus's fault? Is it the crew's fault? Or is it just kind of like bad luck? Or maybe it's the gods, like luck and the gods get kind of blurry. And so far in these 3 encounters we've had in book 9, it's 1 to 1 to 1.
Yeah.
I think. Like the bad things with the Caicons is the crew's fault. The bad thing with the Lotus Eaters is luck / the gods. And then the bad things with the Cyclops is Odysseus's fault. Does that seem like a fair way to score that?
Okay. The Lotus Eaters seem to me to be more of a metaphor for when you're gone from home so long, you forget your real goal is your homecoming, right? Like it seems to be more of a metaphor. I mean, I want to read it as literal, as magic, as type of, like they've been ensnared.
As Lady Gaga's poker face playing in the background of the casino in Las Vegas.
Yeah. I want to believe that they're entranced by the soothing tones of Lady Gaga in this moment. But I also do think that it is also like a metaphor for like they've lost the will to return home.
Yeah.
Which is something that I think can like come and go during the journey home.
Yeah. Yeah. So if we jump back to the Cyclops,
Yes.
I think one of the things that we want to kind of frame this encounter is the clash of personalities here, which leads us into our Greek time segment.
It's Greek time.
So there are 3 words that we're going to talk about, all of which are compound words and all of which start with the same prefix. So the prefix is poly, meaning many. That's very common in many English words that begin with poly. And then there's, 3 different sort of root words with it. So at the very beginning of book 9, this is when we're still sort of, the narrator is at this point Homer before Odysseus begins his story. I'm just going to read from Lattimore's translation. Then resourceful Odysseus spoke in turn and answered him. And then from this point on, it's Odysseus's own narration. But that resourceful Odysseus is polymatis, so many, and then matis is the word for like cleverness or guile or things like this. It's used usually positively. I think when we say guile in English has a negative connotation. Clever, I think, has a more positive connotation. And I think, this is probably closer to cleverness than guile.
Yeah.
So the many tricks or something like that. Odysseus.
Yeah.
This, if you remember, is also similar to an epithet for Odysseus that we got way back at the beginning of book 1 and line 1 of book 1, where he was polytropos. And so tropos is to turn. And so again, we talked about this in our conversation with Kyle before we even started about Odysseus being the sort of the man of many ways, man of many twists and turns, man of many machinations, different translations of that. And so both of those are used for Odysseus of many clevernesses and many ways, many turns, or things like that. And so we very clearly have on multiple occasions seen Odysseus being described as possessing, many tricks and things like this. But the Cyclops, his name is Polyphemus. So that poly root is there as well.
Yeah.
And in this case, the second part of that is from the Greek root like phemi, which again in noun and verb forms has to do with speaking or speeches. And so Polyphemus can get taken in a couple of ways. Some is it's many words, like many different sort of speeches or stories.
Yeah.
But then it can also then be like kind of well-renowned or very famous because there are many speeches about that person. So whether the speeches are about about Polyphemus or they are Polyphemus's own speeches, I think you can interpret it either way. But it's interesting to think about this as a clash between the man of many sort of tricks and the man of many speeches.
Yeah. I kind of lean towards this idea that like he's the Cyclops. You've heard of him, the Cyclops who many stories are told about. Like making him kind of this like reoccurring mythic character.
Yeah.
So that when Odysseus encounters him, it imports this idea that he's infamous. The Cyclops is infamous and like he's a real force to be reckoned with.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, it is that question of like, what happens when an unstoppable force meets an unmovable object?
Yeah.
Right.
And we do get, I think, on the interpretation of Polyphemus as like many speeches coming from Polyphemus himself, he also is fairly tricky and wily, because when he's sort of talking to Odysseus about, who are you? Are you guys pirates? Are you guys like, what are you guys doing here?
Are you guys pirates?
He asks them, where is your ship? And it's implied that Polyphemus is asking them this so he can like destroy the ship and make sure they don't get home. But Odysseus then figures out that that's what he's asking, and Odysseus lies in response to this question, and says like, oh no, we shipwrecked and we washed up and all our stuff is gone. But so we get this again, like Princess Bride style, like a battle of wits, to the death.
Yeah, I think it's easy to import whatever understanding. Like, I think because the Cyclops is also a giant, I think we have this idea that giants are stupid. And also, I think I don't know, that big mythic creatures are stupid and clumsy, and small mythic creatures are tricksy and can get in there and make little mischief. So it's important to remember that the Cyclops he might be very large. He is not smarter than Odysseus, but he is also not stupid.
Right. Yeah, and I think the other way that this contrasts, when in the Iliad, when we see not just Odysseus, but Diomedes and Achilles and all these people sort of fighting, they are, for the most part, fighting using their brute strength. And so we have seen Odysseus display his brute strength prowess. And so one would expect, oh, he's facing this giant monster, he's going to solve this also with his brute strength. But he doesn't. Again, he solves this through, again, cunning and trickery. There is a little bit of brute strength involved. Like, it's not.
I think it always ends up being kind of both.
Right. But it's not simply, again, like, I think most of the time, and maybe this is because, again, fantasy movies or D&D and things like that, like, they focus on combat because that's what's interesting. And so we're used to like fantasy stories of like hero or adventurers facing big bad monster, and it's like a big fight. And that's the sort of archetype that we're used to. But Odysseus is not doing that here. It's not just like, me and my men are going to try and, fight this. I kind of picture, now that I'm thinking about this, is like Legends of Zelda, like Polyphemus is like the Hinox, right? The Hinox is a one-eyed thing.
That's something that you would picture.
Right.
The Hinox is like really stupid.
Right. Just kind of lumbers around, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah. And as you can tell by the music that plays when you fight him. Like, the music sounds like he's stupid.
Right.
And bumbling. But this is not the Cyclops. In fact, another thing that I want to point out about the Cyclops, eventually he grabs some of Odysseus's men, bashes them on the ground like puppies, which is
the craziest simile.
The craziest comparison you can make. And then he eats them, right? I think we jump to that happens so quickly that I think, tend to assume this is regular behavior for the Cyclops to perform this sort of quasi-cannibalistic act. But I think it's important to remember, well, not only, like, he doesn't interact with people very often, so I guess he doesn't have the opportunity to eat people very often. But the way that his cave is described, and the way that he cares for his sheep, and he's always milking them, and he has his cave is described. He has all the tools for making cheese. He's a cheesemaker.
Yeah.
And this guy is, I think we can assume most of the time, he's kind of a vegetarian.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so we've got this guy who goes from vegetarian to eating raw human beings.
Yeah.
Like, in the span of seconds. And that is what shocks me. Not just that he eats the men, but that he seems honestly kind of peaceful. And then he is not all of a sudden. Yeah. And so why does this happen so quickly? Like, does Odysseus really anger him that much? You know?
Are you sort of hinting that this makes you think Odysseus is somehow embellishing? That, like, the jump is kind of too far from believable, that Odysseus might be sort of like fudging or over exaggerating how dangerous he was in some way or another?
Is he over exaggerating how dangerous he was? maybe, is he painting a picture where he doesn't look like he's that entitled? Like, is he leaving, potentially, is he leaving out some of the stuff he said?
Right.
That really maybe angered this guy? I think it's worth thinking about. We could maybe jump to what we mentioned really early in the beginning, which is, why is Odysseus telling this story to the Phaeacians? Because he goes into depth with this story. He doesn't really go, he opens his story by saying, we met one group of people, we sacked them. That's really gutsy to say to these people, I think.
Yeah.
Then he talks about the Lotus Eaters a little bit. But this is a story he chooses to go in depth with.
Yeah, it's like probably 7/8 of the runtime of the whole book. Like, it's very substantial.
Yeah,
the first two
two-thirds of
stories
it.
are very small. And then this
they're
is
little paragraphs. And then this is the main thing he's talking about.
Yeah.
And so why is he telling the Phaeacians this? My take is that it's a sort of warning, in a sense. So, because we've talked about the ways in which the Phaeacians and the Cyclopses might be similar peoples in these ways that we've already talked about. And I wonder if Odysseus wants them to know, I've met people a little bit like you before, and I was a guest, and they did not give me guest friendship gifts. And look what happened to him.
Yeah.
I poked out his eye and took all his sheep. I took his most beloved sheep and I slaughtered it as libations to Zeus. And I tricked him by not telling him my name, which is, I thought, was an interesting thing. He tricked the Cyclops. When the Cyclops asks him for his name, he tells him, obviously, that his name is No Man, or Nemo, you know, that whole thing.
Nobody.
Yeah,
the Greek is outis, which is the negation ou, and then tis is the like relative pronoun for like person or someone. Yeah.
Yeah, my translation does no man. I actually quite like that.
Yeah, mine does no man as well.
Okay. And so when the Cyclops asks him his name, he says no man. But so interestingly, this book opens with Odysseus actually telling the Phaeacians his real name.
But only after a very long time. Because that was another parallel, right? Is like when Odysseus shows up to Nausicaa, he doesn't say his name. When he first shows up at the castle, he doesn't say his name. Like, he has at this point been on the island of the Phaeacians for a couple days at this point, and he hasn't said his name until now.
But he doesn't give him a fake name. So
yeah, that's true.
He's made some progress.
Yeah. But there is this idea of like hiding your identity until the right moment, because by the end of book 9, he does reveal his real name to the Cyclops as well. That's going to get him in trouble. Yeah. So maybe we should, in the story, like get to that part, right? They stab the Cyclops' eye out. They hide underneath the sheep. And then basically as they're leaving on the boats, the Cyclops comes out and like throws a big rock at them. They almost all die. And Odysseus is like basically still taunting the Cyclops, and eventually, despite again further protestations from his crew, reveals his name because he wants, to be known for what he has done.
Yeah. Also, this is kind of a loose parallel. It could just be happenstance, but right, Polyphemus throws a really heavy boulder as far as he can throw it. And Odysseus did the same thing
true.
In the last book during the games when they were like, you're kind of an old man. And he had to prove that he was the bestest of them all.
Yeah.
He also threw a heavy rock as far as he could.
Yeah, that's true.
To show his strength. And so, I mean, I think that was just a common activity at the time.
Yeah.
To see who could throw the heaviest rock the farthest. Like, that's what discus is. So I think it was pretty common. But also, these moments are really close together. So maybe it's not a coincidence.
Yeah.
But what were you saying?
One of the questions that I think we have to ask of this is, why is Odysseus within the narrative, like if we're taking it at face value, not thinking about the meta level, why is he so arrogant, I guess, both in terms of his initial desire to, go to the island in the first place when they didn't have to, and then further to rub it in the Cyclops' face and reveal his name. I think both of those moments compound to be a super negative depiction of Odysseus.
Yeah. It's this character flaw in him, I think. I think it's a flaw. But it's this desire to be known, right? It's this desire to go where no one has gone before, do things no one else has done, right? We'll get to it, but that's, I also think, why he ties himself up when they pass the sirens, right? He wants to hear something that no one has heard before and live live to tell about it. So yeah, he wants to go into the Cyclops' cave and do something crazy. And then at the end, he wants to make sure he gets credit for doing it.
Yeah.
Right. Now that he's like, after he's like pretty sure of their safety, he's like, all right, now I'm good. Now I'm going to make sure that they know my name.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Can I read this portion in Pope's translation? Again, it's looser with the translation, but it's like, it's the iambic pentameter rhyming couplets, his taunt. So this starts with Odysseus' narration and then gets into his taunt. But I of mind elate and scorning fear, thus with new taunts insult the monster's ear. Cyclop, if any pitying thy disgrace, ask who disfigured thus that eyeless face. Say 'twas Ulysses, 'twas his deed declare, Laertes' son of Ithaca the fair, Ulysses far in fighting fields renowned, by whose arm Troy tumbled to the ground.
There's a lot of alliteration there.
Yeah, it's really good. Pope
Yeah.
is great. Like, again, I don't recommend the Pope translation as your first ever read of the Odyssey, but it has been very fun to read because there's such energy and emphasis with it.
Yeah. So this moment at the end, right before where you just read, the Cyclops almost tries to make amends. Let me just read what my translation says. The Cyclops is talking about how it was prophesied once that Odysseus' hands would make me lose my sight. I always thought a tall, handsome man would visit me, endowed with strength and courage. But this weakling, this little nobody, has blinded me. By wine he got the best of me. Come on, Odysseus, and let me give you gifts, and ask Poseidon's help to get you home. I am his son. The god is proud to be my father. He will heal me if he wants, da-da-da-da. There's like this little moment where it could be that I could read it two ways. I could read it that Polyphemus is like, come back. I will give you gifts. As like trying to lure him back in to kill him. Or he's being sincere. And he's like, because his father is Poseidon, right? He could have, if he's being sincere here, he could have made Odysseus' journey like as effortless as possible from this point on. But Odysseus doubles down.
Yeah.
If only I could steal your life from you and send you down to Hades' house below, as sure as nobody will ever heal you, even the god of earthquakes.
Oh, could this arm, I thus aloud rejoined, from that vast bulk dislodge thy bloody mind, and send thee howling into the realms of night, as sure as Neptune cannot give thee sight.
Oof. Yeah, it's good stuff. But yeah, once he's like, nah, I'm good. I've got Zeus. That's kind of, I think, what he's thinking. He doesn't need Poseidon. He's like, at least I got Zeus. And then he doubles down on it. My name is Odysseus, da-da-da, what you just read. And so, and then later, right, he sacrifices the Cyclops' favorite ram. There on the shore, I slaughtered him for Zeus, the son of Cronos, god of dark clouds, lord of all the world. I burned the thighs. The god ignored my offering and planned to ruin all of my ships and all my loyal men. That line right there also indicates that through this altercation he's had with the Cyclops, he's not only ruined his relationship with Poseidon, like he didn't really have one to begin with, it seems, but he did have a sort of relationship with Zeus that it also seems to be gone.
Yeah. And I wonder, again, we're not given an account for this, but the fact that he appeals to Zeus as the sort of protector of suppliants, it's like, you must give me gifts because, all suppliants have Zeus's protection. I wonder if the fact that he is so kind of like, he's almost abusing this law for his own benefit. And I wonder if Zeus is looking down on that. Like, that's not what this is meant for. Like, you're not supposed to like go around demanding gifts of people. I'm like, oh, I'm a guest, like trick or treat every night. Like, just like go up to everybody's house. I'm like, oh, I'm a guest. Give me something. Oh, I'm a guest. Give me something. Like, that's not the intent of this.
It's not the
custom.
spirit of the law.
Yeah. And I wonder if that's part of Zeus's now sort of disdain for Odysseus a little bit, or at least withdrawing his favor. Yeah. The other thing, since we're on the gods, that I noticed is the utter lack of Athena in this. I think I very often criticize Odysseus for kind of only being successful because he has Athena's help or favor.
Yeah.
But in all three of these scenes, again, none of them go great, but also none of them are disastrous right now. Athena doesn't actually help him. She's not there whispering ideas or...
Yeah. When he has the genius idea to say his name is nobody or no man, it doesn't say that Athena gave him that idea.
Right.
Right. He just, or it's not, I don't even think it's inspired by Zeus. It's not, there's no divine inspiration in this. It just, he just thinks of it. He is also, it also maybe could be like a difference in the voice of the narrator, right? Because the Homeric narrator might say something like that, but this is Odysseus's style of narration.
Right. And this is why I brought this up, right? So
Yeah.
back when we were reading the Iliad, we sort of encountered and were wrestling with this theory of the bicameral mind and this idea that what if ancient people sort of didn't actually have consciousness in the same way we do, but simply attributed all of their actions to the voice of gods within their heads. And that was sort of what a conscience was. And we didn't fully buy into that for the Iliad, but I think many people talk about the transition from the Iliad to the Odyssey as a major shift in that. And I think, right, given this moment, there's no way, I think, to possibly read the bicameral mind theory into the Odyssey. You can make an argument in the Iliad in many cases for it, but here, right, we very clearly see Odysseus thinking through things and attributing his thoughts and his own original ideas to himself. He is not like saying that the gods did this on my behalf.
Yeah, I don't think there's a lot of stock in the bicameral mind theory. I think it's interesting to just think about as like a thought experiment. But also, so like putting the bicameral mind theory specifically kind of aside, it's hard to ignore. There is this strong shift from the Iliad to the Odyssey. Yes. Something in the people's in the way that peoples were thinking about the gods or relating to them, something changed. And I think that's pretty evident.
Yeah, and I think the other thing too, and maybe this, because I've been arguing with people on Reddit about the Hunger Games being written from Katniss's point of view. So I've been thinking a lot about the impact that POV has on a novel or a story, and the entirety of the Iliad is from sort of a third person omniscient. Like we get lots of people's speeches and internal thoughts, but here at the beginning of book 9, it switches into first person. Like Odysseus now for the next couple of books will just be recounting his own tale from his own perspective. And I think that is really significant, both from a narrative perspective, just because it is new. Like Homer hasn't done anything this extensive in first person. And the way that shifts our understanding, right? It makes us question the sort of unreliable narrator becomes a possibility in a way that, like in the Iliad, because it's all third person omniscient narrator, is never sort of a question.
Yeah. By putting it in first person, it allows you to think this is Odysseus's version of events. And it's also so strange because first person isn't something that I associate with great literature. I think that I associate YA novels specifically.
We do largely associate it with YA.
Yeah, I do. I distinctly remember like going from reading stuff in third person, like little chapter books, and then being like, oh, this is different. I'm inside their mind. And when you're a teenager, you're like, oh, these teenagers think like me.
Yeah.
Right? That kind of thing. But it's definitely really significant that he's telling his own story from first person and these things. Do you have a take? I mean, I've sort of shared my take on, I think he's saying to the Phaeacians, I met some people once, he didn't give me a gift, and now he doesn't have an eyeball.
Well, can I ask, so by that, do you think there was an actual encounter with a Cyclops that Odysseus is sort of changing the details of and embellishing and telling in a way to create these parallels? Or it is entirely made up and nothing like this ever happened and he's saying it as a complete fabrication in order to sort of give this message?
I used to be in the camp that it was all made up.
The complete fabrication.
I used to be in the camp that like, well, obviously there are no Cyclopses. So obviously he's making this all up. Mm-hmm. But I no longer think that. I think that reading takes the magic and the myth out of the story. Mm. And I think that it sort of sterilizes the story in a way that it's there because it's meant to be mythic in proportions, and it's supposed to feel larger than life, these things. And so I no longer think that he's making it all up. I think that I think that it probably did happen to him. And I think that he is, like we said, like he told the first little story really quickly. He told the second with the Lotus Eaters really quickly, but he lingers on this one. Mm-hmm. And so I think that it probably did happen, and that he is on purpose lingering the longest on this story. Yeah.
Yeah, because I think the other thing is Odysseus is smart enough. Like, he has to know that this story is not completely flattering to him.
Yeah.
And so, like, if he was just trying to paint the best picture of himself, he would have skipped over this.
It would be a different story, if he was trying to make himself look like the bestest guy ever.
Right.
Because he doesn't look like the bestest guy in the story. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think, I wonder, though, is it also in part, like, if it is still maybe more fabricated than not, a way of creating an excuse for himself that, like, I did these things, but then it was the Cyclops who cursed me to Poseidon, and then Poseidon was against me the whole time. And sort of like, I wonder if there's a little bit of like pity, sort of like victimizing himself of like, poor me, like I did this, and yeah, maybe I made some mistakes, but this was what caused the rest of my woes. Because I think it's also important that, like, at this point in the narrative, like, this is ostensibly happening maybe just a couple weeks after they left Troy.
Yeah, probably more than that. It takes a while to do things back then. But
yeah,
a couple
but
months.
It's definitely within a reasonable, like, if he got home right after this, it would be a perfectly reasonable amount of time for him to have taken to get from Troy back home.
Yeah.
And so the fact that he has taken an unreasonably amount, like 10 years long, like, part of me wonders if he's trying to like cope and like come up with excuses for this is why it took me so long. Because I do think it's also, we didn't mention this at all, but even before he starts with the story of leaving Troy and sacking the Caicons, he tells the Phaeacians, I was with Calypso, and before that was with Circe. And he's very clear in both cases, like, they held me against my will.
Yeah.
They held me too long.
Yeah.
And so he opens this with like, there was a 7-year stay with Calypso, and even before that, a couple years before that. And so let me catch you up through all of that. And so, I don't know, this is me being, I think, overly critical, but Odysseus seems really keen to like make all of this seem like not his fault.
Yeah, I don't know. Sometimes I think because he is the bestest trickster, whatever, like I feel a confidence that he will solve his problems and that he will get home and that he is a very capable guy. So I feel like I want to put the responsibility on him. And I feel like, yeah, he might be playing up the pity card. Mm-hmm. But it's like both, because he might be playing it up for pity, but he also has not had the easiest time. Mm-hmm. As we know, because everybody else who's alive has already made it back home.
Yeah.
So it's both. Like,
yeah.
You can have a hard time and want people to have pity on you.
And you also could bear some blame for things going wrong.
Yeah.
Yeah. They're not mutually exclusive.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm curious now if we can go to the not even meta level in terms of like Homer's intent, but like the sort of, 21st century pop culture. Most people, if they know anything about the Odyssey, know this story. And I'm curious if you have thoughts about why that is. Like, why is this the thing that people feel like they remember from the Odyssey?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, it's like top level is the Cyclops. Mm-hmm. And then after that, it's usually like Circe turning men into pigs.
And I feel like the sirens are up there.
And the sirens. And so it's all of this mythic stuff that he himself tells in the middle. This part of the story feels like a hero's journey, kind of. Even though you can take it out of context, it's usually all out of context when people talk about it. Even though he's returning home, for some reason it feels like he's purposefully going out and seeking these things.
Well, he is, right? Like,
Well, the Cyclops, he did, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, he's trying to get home.
Yeah.
And these things kind of are incidental. But except, yeah, like it has this feeling of he's seeking out these dragons to fight for some reason. Obviously, we're reading the Odyssey. We and the audience know that it's not really a hero's journey. Like, well, this goes into some meta stuff in my life, but I've been doing a lot of looking into the differences between the hero's journey and the heroine's journey. And the hero's journey and the heroine's journey are not exclusive to like male and female characters. It's just a more masculine version of storytelling versus a feminine one, or like patterns, right? There's masculine patterns, straight lines versus feminine patterns and circles. You can get me started on a rant, I guess, about how the hero's journey, it all comes down to Star Wars and how like it's sort of in the cultural zeitgeist as the monomyth. Like the peak of storytelling is the hero's journey, and that's just not the case. It is one version of a way to tell a story, and the heroine's journey is also a great way to tell a story. And the key thing about the heroine's journey is that the main character in a heroine's journey starts in a sort of Edenic state. That state is broken, and then they must, throughout their journey, they are working to restore that Eden, or to land in a place that is like a paradise, to restore paradise, I guess, to transcend, to not just return to the Eden, but to do so in such a way that it is even better, right? And Odysseus is on that journey, like, to restore his homeland. You know, he's not there yet, but this isn't a hero's journey. It's definitely not a hero's. I mean, the thing about it that's heroic is that he, that tends to be more masculine, is that he starts out with this group of men, his men, and he slowly gets whittled down to now it is just him. So he does have that classic like one man versus the world type thing going for him, which in a heroine's journey, usually the heroine picks up a found family along the way, and that group around the heroine is what pushes the story and does a lot of the work. Odysseus is like one man charging ahead.
I think it's also just important to note when we say hero and heroine, that doesn't necessarily mean male character, female character.
Yeah.
You can have female main characters who go on heroes' journeys, and you can have male main characters who go on heroines' journeys.
Yes. And there are actually a lot of those that the audience might be surprised to know. I'm not going to get into it now. People associate this chunk of the story
with the dragon,
with the most exciting thing, and like it is a hero's journey.
Right.
But in fact, when you read the whole Odyssey, you realize that it's not really a hero's journey. Might be more of a heroine's journey.
Yeah, because it does fall into the archetypes again of like lots of video games or D&D or things like that, of like adventurer fighting the boss monster. Like it has boss fight, energy to it.
Yeah.
And we're drawn to those moments in stories, even though this is not like a climactic moment of the book. We're in, book 9 of 24, and there's a lot more to come.
Yeah.
It taps into what we associate with the kind of like climactic moments, even the entering into a cave, right? Like in the Joseph Campbell iteration of the hero's journey, like there is the sort of, journey into the cave where then you sort of have the final fight. Like that's actually a part of it. And this is a literal journey into a cave where there's this monster, and yeah.
Yeah, it has all those elements that you associate with hero's journey storytelling. The thing you said about video games it reminded me of this. When Odysseus goes back and tells his story, we get these nice like episodic interactions with these various obstacles, right? All these things he's encountering are obstacles along the pathway home. And Polyphemus is weirdly one of the only male obstacles in his way. When you track it all, when you look at the whole story, a lot of the things that really hold him back from getting home are feminine.
Especially that are individualized, right? Like,
Yeah.
I'm sure there were both male and female lotus eaters and
Yeah. But it's
the individual.
That's a small level that he that's a small level. But these big levels, these big obstacles, the biggest ones are Circe and Calypso, right? And
even the sirens and Scylla and Charybdis are other big ones. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah, these monsters that, these feminine monsters that usually threaten to literally consume him. And Polyphemus also is this, he just happens to be a cannibal all of a sudden. I think that because one of Odysseus's big fatal flaw is that he can never get enough. He himself is kind of a consuming maw. And a lot of the things that he encounters along the way mirror his tragic flaw themselves in their desire to consume him.
Yeah.
The Cyclops, Scylla and Charybdis. We can get. I want to think more about Circe when we get to her, because this whole like transforming man into animal thing is something I'm quite interested in at the moment.
Secret project.
No
spoilers.
And so, I'm interested in that, like how she threatens his humanity with animality, right? That kind of thing. And that scares Odysseus. Both being the one who is consumed and not the consumer scares him, and him losing his mind, the thing that he most associates with being a human being, right? That scares him. So.
Yes. There's lots more to come.
Yes.
This is, the first of many obstacles that Odysseus will face. And it'll be fun to keep reading.
Indeed.
So I have an audiobook ready of Book 10 from Samuel Butler's translation. You are welcome to listen to that or read along in your own translation, or simply tune in and we will summarize from there next week with Book 10.
Yep. And right now we also have a new episode of Chonkers on Patreon only, a mini podcast about thick books, though we have been reading quite a lot of novellas over there, which has been interesting. So if you want to just check out what else we like to read, go check that out. But until next time,
happy reading.
Happy reading.